Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, doctor. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Do you have any question? Okay, today I will discuss heaven. What is it all about?
Yes, I can say something.
Okay, go on.
Yes, I say something that you have mentioned before. This poem deals with the status of immigrants in the host country. Cathy Song belongs to third generation of immigrants because she preserves her cultural identity, but at the same time she acquires the civilization of the West. In this poem, we have a Chinese woman married to an American man. Her son, who is American but looks like Chinese, feels that he belongs in China but not in America. The son represents the Chinese who live in America. As you have mentioned before, this son represents metaphorically the son of Cathy Song.
Yes,
And
it's not necessarily her son, and the speaker is
yes,
not necessarily,
yes,
is
yes,
not necessarily Kathy Song.
yes.
Okay, go
They
on.
they realize that the America is not their place of belonging and not their home. That's why the son looks toward China and says the way to heaven lies there. So the son stands for the Americans who are of Chinese origin. He has assimilated in the American society, but he still believes that he is a Chinese deep down. He realizes that heaven exists where China exists. In this poem, so the way to heaven is a way to China.
Yes,
It's done. Thank you, Doctor.
thank you, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, go on.
So, metaphorically, this Chinese woman had married an American guy, but still she liked her children to know about the Chinese identity. She dreams that one day they will be able to discover the Chinese identity as well. Although they are of the second generation, they have never been to China.
Okay,
So her hope
okay,
is
yeah.
that her children may know something about China, about the heritage of China.
Okay.
But
Anything else?
still, she believes that they are so far from reaching this goal because they are by time they become far from going back to China.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Helen. He thinks when we die, we'll go to China. By the way, your colleagues are still requesting to join the course. How come? Where have they been all these days? Every session, I find out that 3, 4, 5, 10 students are requesting to join the team. Where have they been? Have they been sleeping all these months?
Doctor,
Haven't. Okay.
can I say something in this regard?
Yes.
We, يعني, as colleagues, we like to help each other, but some students take our number from WhatsApp groups, and they simply ask us to send them all the notes we have written in all courses. يعني, when we write notes, we write like just headlines. يعني, we only ourselves can understand our own notes.
Okay.
يعني, sorry for not sending the notes. Although if we send them, they will not be able to understand our own notes. We write them in our own language, and they are just very brief notes, and we elaborate them in our own language.
Okay, Ines, it is not your duty to send them notes. And it's not your duty to attend the class on behalf of 260 students. I say to you, don't send them anything. You're not obliged to do it.
Doctor, and I have something to say. Can I speak, please?
Okay.
For example, myself, I knew which lectures I need to attend like 2 weeks ago because I'm an old student. And until they send me which lectures I still have to finish my last year, they were so late. So that's why I joined so late. And I got the books just yesterday, and I'm not in Lebanon. So this is really not my fault. This is the fault of our university that always put us in problems. So this is what I
Because you
wanted to
are repeating
explain.
the course.
Yeah.
You are repeating the course.
Actually, I still have some courses I need to finish in order to
I'm asking you
graduate.
about the course. Are you
Yes,
repeating this course?
this is a new for me. In the old system, it wasn't principles of research. So this is a new for me.
How long have you been studying at this university?
Anna, I left like 5 years ago, and now I need to finish my courses in order to graduate. This is what happened to me because I left Lebanon.
Yes, 5 years ago the course was given.
I was in the old system, and now new, you are just 3 years. So I was in the 4th year, supposed to be 4th year for me. This is what happened.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry about this.
Okay, there is no problem. But I am trying to draw your attention to attending the class. It is neither my problem nor maybe it's not yours. Anyway, I'm not responsible for what's going on at the university. Okay, Harry. He thinks when we die we'll go to China. Think of it. A Chinese heaven where except for his blonde hair, the part that belongs to his father, everyone will look like him. China, that blue flower on the map, bluer than the sea. His hand must span like a bridge to reach it, an octave away. As I said, the speaker is not necessarily Kathy Song herself. and the son and the daughter are not necessarily her son and her daughter. Okay? So the poem deals with Chinese immigrants living in America. And these Chinese people still believe that they are not belonging in China. They lack a sense of belonging. That's why she starts the poem saying, he thinks when we die, we'll go to China. So they associate China with heaven. Okay, think of it. A Chinese heaven where, except for his blonde hair, the part that belongs to his father, everyone will look like him. Okay? So the son is an American son, simply because his father is American. And it seems that his mother is Chinese. So that's why he has both, that's why he has aspects of both cultures, the Chinese culture and the American culture. He has aspects of Chinese.
How to write a paragraph?
He has aspects of the Chinese identity as well as aspects of the American. Okay, I muted all of you. Think of it, a Chinese heaven where, except for his blonde hair, the part that belongs to his father, everyone will look like him. Okay? So the son has aspects of both identities, the American identity and the Chinese identity. His hair is blonde, like the hair of American people. And his color is like the color of the Chinese. So he has aspects of the Chinese identity as well as the American identity. So that's why she says, a Chinese heaven where, except for his blonde hair. So this is the only aspect of the American identity that he has. The part that belongs to his father, everyone will look like him. China, the blue flower on the map, bluer than the sea. His hand must stand like a bridge to reach it, an octave away. So deep down, the son feels that he is Chinese. So that's why he aspires to go to China. So she describes China as a blue flower on the map. And we know that the blue color is a symbol of tranquility. Okay, so he associates China with peaceful life, with tranquil life. So he expects to lead in China a peaceful, tranquil mode of living. So this means that he's not happy living in America. So that's why he associates China with heaven. Heaven is a place of peace, of happiness, where people live after they die. So that's why he thinks that when he dies, he will go to China, i.e. to heaven. So this is the significance of her saying, he thinks when we die, we'll go to China. So China is a place of peace, of tranquility, of happiness. I've never seen it. It's as if I can't sing that far. But look, on the map, this black dots. So here, or in this poem, she draws a contrast between America and China. In the first stanza, she describes China as a blue flower on the map. And I said blue is a color of tranquility. In the second stanza, she describes America as a black dot. So that's why she says, look, on the map, this black dot. Therefore, the black dot refers to America. Okay? So America is a place of melancholy. It is a place of sadness. It is a place that lacks light, and we know that black is a color of death also. It is a color of sadness. It is a color of melancholy. Therefore, the lady associates America with lack of light, with sadness, with melancholy. Here is where we live. On the Pancake Plains, just east of the Rockies, on the other side of the clouds. A mile above the sea, the air is so thin, you can starve on it. Therefore, the place where they are living is not a good place for living. They are barely living in that American territory. So that's why she says, here is where we live, on the Pancake Plains, just east of the Rockies. And you know that the Rockies is a range of American mountains. On the other side of the clouds, a mile above the sea, the air is so thin, you can starve on it, i.e. they can hardly breathe. There is no enough oxygen to take in. Okay, so because the air is so thin, she feels that they are dying for lack of oxygen. And this associates America with a process of dying. The air is so thin, you can starve on it. Okay? So this means that there is no enough air. The air is so thin, there is no enough air, no enough oxygen. They are suffocating, so their life is not a good life. And here there is a difference between a symbol and an image, Ines. Okay? Black dot. Black is a symbol of melancholy, of sadness, of death. The air is so thin. So this is an image. Okay? So the symbol is one object. It could be a human being, it could be an object, it could be an animal, it could be a plant. Okay, so an image is a description of something, a concrete description of something that expresses a certain idea or a certain feeling. Okay, so here you have the image of the air that is so thin.
Yes.
This is a yes.
Yes, I got it. The difference between the image and the symbol.
Okay. The air is so thin you can starve on it. No bamboo trees, but the alpine equivalent. Reedy aspen with light fluttering leaves. Even the environment is different. So there is a difference between the environment, the ecosystem, if you want to call it ecosystem, in America and the ecosystem in China. The environment in China is associated with life, the bamboo trees. So when the bamboo trees flutter, they produce enough amount of oxygen. But in America, we have instead reedy aspen with light fluttering leaves. Did a boy in Guangzhou dream of this as his last stop? Here, there is a reference. The lady, or Kathy's song, is referring to the first generation of Chinese immigrants. And here the reference is to her grandfather, because on the second page, she says, it skipped 2 generations, i.e. the generation of her grandfather, the generation of her father. And she resembles or stands for the third generation. Okay? So here she is referring to the first generation of Chinese immigrants. Okay? So did the first generation of immigrants dream of living in a place which is suffocating, in a place which is a place of death, not a place of life? I've heard the trains at night whistling past our yards, what we've come to own, the broken fences, the whiny dog, the rattle-trap cars. Okay? So the first generation of immigrants left for America thinking that in America they will have a good way of living. They left for America thinking that through immigration they can improve their ways of living. But these immigrants are living next to railway stations, next to highways. They lack peace, so that's why she says, I have heard the trains at night whistling past our yards. Okay, so even at night they cannot have the peace of sleeping. Their sleep is interrupted by the whistles of the trains. What we've come to own: the broken fences, the whiny dog, the rattle-trap cars. Rattle-trap cars, i.e. cheap cars. Okay? So they have not been granted the luxuries of living in America. They are still poor. They live in poor neighborhoods. They live in places that lack security and safety. So the broken fences are symbolic of lack of safety and security. The broken fences are symbolic of lack of security and safety. It is still the Wild West. Okay, so she associates America with a wilderness. Okay, so she realizes that they are not living in a civilized country. Why? It is still the Wild West, mean and grubby. The shootouts and fist fights in the black alley. So they are not living in a civilized society because the people are still engaging in fighting each other. Okay, so in a civilized state, we expect to have a country where people can live peacefully and safely. And I talked about the difference between the state of nature and the social order in the Shakespeare course. I said the state of nature stands for the state of living in a wilderness, in a jungle. So according to the philosophers of the Renaissance, in the state of nature, man lives as an animal. Human beings live as animals, and the strong animal beats the weak animals. So this is the law of the jungle. So that's why, according to these philosophers, man has to develop, to progress from the state of nature to the social order. The social order is a civilized society. So in a civilized society, man has laws, customs, traditions, habits, and what have you. All of these control man's behavior. I.e., all of these laws and customs and traditions prevent man from behaving as an animal. Now, the lady is saying that we are still living in a wilderness in the West because we lack safety, security, and peace. With my son, the dreamer, and my daughter, who is too young to walk, I sat in this spot and wondered, why here? Why in this short life, this town, this creek they call a river? He had never planned to stay. She is, the lady in this poem is referring to her grandfather who came to America to work in building railways and roads. And he didn't expect to stay in America for good. I.e., he expected to go there, make money, and go back to China. He had never planned to stay. The boy who helped to build the railroads for $1 a day, he had always meant to go back. When did he finally know that each mile of track led him further away? That he would die in his sleep dispossessed, having seen Gold Mountain, the icy wind tunneling through it, this landlocked makeshift ghost towns. Here there is a reference to the issue of belonging. The host country. Okay? Now, when we study immigrant literature, we come across the first generation of immigrants. And we realize that the first generation intended to stay in the West for a certain period of time and to go back to their countries. Okay? So this shows that the first generation of immigrants doesn't intend to become citizens of the host country. These people don't want to be assimilated into the society and culture of the host country. So that's why the grandfather in this poem didn't expect to stay in America for long. Okay? So he expected to work and to go back to China. So that's why she says, when did he finally know that each mile of track led him further away? That he would die in his sleep, dispossessed. I want to comment on dispossessed. To be dispossessed means to be considered as a foreigner, as a stranger. He is a man who has left his country, but at the same time he has not been integrated in the social and cultural fabric of the host country. So that's why he is dispossessed. Having seen Gold Mountain, the icy wind tunneling through it, these landlocked makeshift ghost towns, i.e. unreal towns, i.e. lack of settlement. Okay, so the grandfather didn't think that he will be settled in the United States of America. It must be in the blood, this notion of returning. So the idea of going back to one's native country is something that is passed on from one generation to the other. Okay? So this idea of going back to the native country has been passed on from the grandfather to the father to the mother to the grandchildren to the great-grandchildren to the great-great-grandchildren. This is what she's saying. So the idea of going back to one's native country is still alive in her children, who make up in this poem the fourth generation of immigrants. Okay, so she aims to say that immigrants never feel at home living in exile, E-X-I-L-E, i.e. living abroad in their host country. Okay, so these people, okay.
Can you repeat this, please?
Yes. Here she aims to say that immigrants living abroad never feel at home living in America, in their host country. They feel that they are still foreigners living in exile. So this is the difference between exile and home. Okay? So exile means to live in a country which is not your own native country. It is a place where you feel that you are still a foreigner. You are not a citizen. You are not a member of that society. Okay? Home is the opposite of exile. Home here doesn't mean only a place where you live. Home here has political, cultural, linguistic, and geographical dimensions. Okay? Now, to be at home means that you have the rights to live as a citizen. Okay? So according to Kathy's song, immigrants living in host countries don't feel living at home. They feel that they are strangers. They feel that the host country is not their home. So that's why the idea of returning to the native country is inherited from one generation to the other. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor. Thank you.
It skipped 2 generations, i.e. her father and her grandfather. Latham, the garden, and unmarked grave. On a spring sweater day. Sweater day means Labor Day. On a spring sweater day, it is as if we remember him. So they remember her grandfather on Labor Day because her grandfather was a laborer. I call to the children. We can see the mountains shimmering blue above the air, i.e. from their place in America. They can see the blue mountains of China. Okay? So this means that they yearn to go back to China. We can see the mountains shimmering blue above the earth. If you look really hard, says my son the dreamer, leaning out from a laundry's ring, the work shirts fluttering like sails, you can see all the way to heaven. Okay? So in other words, living in America is similar to living in a hell according to immigrants. At least according to the group of immigrants who believe that they are not assimilated into the mainstream culture of the American society. Okay? So these people feel that they are still exiles living in a host country. So that's why they hanker after going back to their native countries. Is it clear?
Doctor,
Yes.
so she belongs to the essentialists, right? Essentialist exiles.
Yes, if you want. Did I mention the essentialists in this class?
Yes, in the methodology.
Yes. These people feel that they need to go back to their native countries, and they feel that they are foreigners living in America. So this means that they have not been assimilated into the American society. So they are neither culturally hybrid nor culturally westernized.
But
So they
can't
feel
we
that they need to
consider
go back to China. Yes.
can't we consider her as the third type? يعني cultural hybridity because she is married to American.
Okay, Ines, is it you, Ines?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm referring to the two poems. In the two poems, Cathy Song deals with the Chinese immigrants who feel that they are not living or they are not at home living in America. She deals with this group of immigrants. Okay? Whether she is westernized or not, this is part of her life as a woman. Okay? Now we know that Cathy Song is a Chinese American writer, so this means that she is American. And she has been given the American citizenship. And she speaks English. English is part of her cultural identity. She is a poet. She writes in English. Okay? So Cathy Song as a poet is an American poet. And her poems are published in the Northern Anthology of American Literature. And you have to know that America is a country that houses citizens of different ethnicities and nationalities. So we don't have purely American citizens in America. Okay? So the purely American citizens are the native Indians of America, those who populated America before the English colonization of America. And we know that the English started colonizing America during the Elizabethan Age, which is the 16th century. During the 16th century, the English started navigating the New World, which is America in general. Okay? So the English, i.e. the British, who landed first in America, landed there during the reign of Queen Elizabeth. And Queen Elizabeth was the Queen of England during the second half of the 16th century. Okay? So later on, immigrants started leaving for America, thinking that America is a heaven. So that's why we have the American dream.
Dreamland.
We study the American dream in American literature. This is one aspect of American literature, the American dream, especially during the first 20 years of the 20th century. So that's why immigrants from different European countries resorted to America. So the American citizens are Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, German, English, French, and what have you. Many nationalities, many ethnicities. Okay, so America, in fact, is a nation of different ethnicities and nationalities. And we can say that America is a country characterized by multiculturalism, whether we admit it or not. whether the Americans themselves admit it or not. This is America. And Joe Biden, last week, I think it was last Wednesday, maybe last Wednesday. Yes, it was last Wednesday. In his inaugural address says that America is a country of different cultures and nationalities. And Abraham Lincoln, who built the Capitol, says to those who criticized him while he was building the Capitol, he says the Capitol is the house of democracy. Okay? So the American nation is not purely American. Even the natives of America during the 1960s, 70s, 50s felt that they were discriminated against by the white Americans. And they were excluded from political life in America. Okay, so I think Kathy Song as a woman is American. She may look Chinese. I have never seen her picture, so I cannot say whether she is Chinese as far as the physical appearance is concerned, but I am talking about her culturally. Maybe she, as a woman, is culturally hybrid, yes, because she is Chinese, Korean American. Okay? One of her grandfathers was Chinese, one of her grandmothers, I think her grandfather was married to a Korean woman. And they became American. She became American, and she is married to maybe to an American citizen, whether Chinese or American. They are American citizens. But she is dealing with that group of immigrants who feel that they are not assimilated into the American culture and society. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor. So her view is different than that of Edward Said, who believes that a successful exile is the one who feels home, right?
Yes, this is Edward Said. Edward Said says an exile is a rift between the self and the true place of belonging, i.e. between yourself, your identity as a human being, and the place to which you belong. But according to Edward Said, the exile who should live successfully in a host country should feel at home. And in his article, which is entitled Reflections on Exile, he gives examples of writers, thinkers, scientists who have achieved a lot in the host countries. Okay? So they have made up for the fact that they are foreigners through their scientific, literary, cultural, political achievements. Okay? Even Salman Rushdie says, if the exile adopts the mentality of the Ghetto, i.e. the mentality of living in isolation from the main society, they will face problems. So Salman Rushdie even doesn't want the exiles to isolate themselves from the mainstream society of the host country. So in this case, even Edward Said and Salman Rushdie believe in cultural hybridity. Okay, so if you become assimilated into the mainstream culture, you don't have to give up your culture according to Edward Said and according to Salman Rushdie. Okay, so maybe the lady is dealing with this group of immigrants. And maybe these immigrants still feel that they are foreigners. Why not? An American black playwright wrote a one-act play entitled The Dutchman. In this play, there is a black man on board of a train or a bus, and the other passengers are white. One of the white passengers stabbed the black man and killed him. So this means that the whites discriminate against the blacks. Okay, so maybe immigrants still feel that they are foreigners living in their host countries. Okay, so Cathy Song is dealing with this aspect. Okay, now Hanif Quraishi, who is a Pakistani novelist, believed in westernization. In his novel, The Black Album, he portrays two groups of immigrants: essentialists and westernized immigrants. Okay, so in the novel, the essentialist immigrants who want to revenge their culture and their civilization on the British culture end up destroying themselves. Okay, so the essentialists in this novel are against liberalism. They believe that liberalism contrasts with their religious beliefs, so that's why they want to fight liberalism. And liberalism in the novel is symbolized by Salman Rushdie's satanic verses. And we know that the satanic verses that Salman Rushdie published in 1988 or 1989 was banned in the Arab world, mainly in the Muslim world. And Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa on Salman Rushdie. He believed that Salman Rushdie should be killed because he had insulted Islam and the Muslims. Okay, so Salman Rushdie in the novel is presented as a symbol of liberalism, the freedom of expressing yourself. So they destroyed his book. They burned his book in the novel. And at the end of the novel, they bombed the bookstore which sells this book, and they ended up destroying themselves. So this is what he wants to say. So according to Hanif Quraishi, immigrants who are essentialists cannot survive in the West. They cannot survive in their host countries. Okay? So the good exile for Hanif Quraishi is the exile who adopts the Western culture. And this means that this exile should give up, should desert, should abandon his native culture. That's why the Pakistani guy in the novel who adopts westernization survives. Okay? So according to Hanif Quraishi, man's self is always changing. He doesn't believe that the human self is fixed. Fixed, F-I-X-E-D. This is the word that he uses in the novel. He believes that the self should be always changing. Therefore, the fixed self leads to destruction, and the changing self leads to adaptation. So that's why Shahid, the main character, the protagonist, survives at the end of the novel. He deserts his essentialist friends, colleagues. He adopts liberalism and lives like the liberal British guys live. That's why he survives. So this means that Hanif Quraishi opts for westernization. So he is the opposite of Salman Rushdie and the opposite of Edward Said. Is it clear?
Doctor, just one more question.
Okay, go
In
on.
our last lecture, we said that there are three concepts: the essentialism, westernization, and cultural hybridity, which is
Yes.
a mixture of both.
Yes.
So can we consider Kathy Song from the third concept, which is cultural hybridity?
Okay.
Because she's still feeling homesick, and at the same time, she is living in America and she's adapting her life.
No, if you take these two poles into account, okay, the immigrants in these two poles are essentialists. They leave for America to improve their ways of living, but they realize that they have not achieved anything. That's why they express the need to go back to China. Okay? Now, to know whether she is culturally hybrid or westernized or essentialist, you have to read her biography. Or you have to read her, let's say, view of home and exile, if she has written anything on this. So in this case, you can determine whether she is culturally hybrid or westernized or essentialist. I'm not going to say whether she is culturally hybrid or essentialist or westernized because I haven't read her biography.
Yes, clear, doctor. So in the exam, we have to take into consideration the poems, not her own life.
Yes, the poems. On the exam, we usually have a poem, and your final judgment should be based on what you have in the poems. Okay? So if I say in her poems, Kathy Song deals with the idea that exiles do not feel at home living in America, I don't expect you to deal with cultural hybridity. In this case, you will get a zero. I don't expect you to deal with westernization because the poems do not deal with westernization or with cultural hybridity.
But we will define them in the methodology, right?
You have methodology, yes. Any more questions? Okay, this is the end of the part on Kathy Song. I think we still have to discuss Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. What else? Do you have the syllabus with you?
Yes, doctor, only Dover Beach.
We only
And
have,
conclusion.
how come conclusion? We still have to do how to write an argumentative essay. And we have to do the rest of the chapter on how to write a research paper. Right? We did Daddy, we did Perda in Distrust of Marriage, Emily Dickinson's poems, Dulce et Decorum Est, Dover Beach, Kathy Song. We did Kathy Song, so we still have to do Dover Beach. This is, I think, the last poem. If we have time, we may study someone else. And we have to do the rest of the chapter on how to write a research paper. We are not done with this chapter yet.
We still
Right.
have 5 lectures, Asla.
Anyway, we still have to know how to write a bibliography note for an article published in a journal. You have to know how to write a bibliography note for an article published online. You have to know what we mean by volume and issue and the difference between both, and how to use them in writing your bibliography notes. I will have to discuss how to list 2 sources by the same author in your list of works cited or your list of references. Sometimes you may use 2 books or 2 sources by the same author. How do you write them in your list of works cited? The APA format in this case differs from the MLA style sheet. Again, this is part of the principles of writing a research paper. Okay, so let us have a look at the book since we are done with Kathy Song. Let us do some of the bibliography notes. Okay, go back to the chapter which is entitled Writing the Research Paper. Okay, so we did the bibliography note that introduces a source by one author, book with 2 authors or 3 or more than 3 authors, and we did the bibliography note that introduces a book with an editor, right? Or a selection in an anthology. We did the part that deals with a selection in an anthology, right? And we had the example of Kafka, France. Metamorphosis, it is written within quotation marks, right? Did we do this sample?
Yes, doctor, but book with an editor, we don't do it. Yeah.
We will go back to it. Okay, selection in an anthology. You start with the family, with the name of the author. Kafka, France. The Metamorphosis. This is the title of the source, and it is written within quotation marks because it is published in an anthology. After the title here you have trans. This is the translator. I discussed this before. Edwin and Willamore, period. Literature, reading, poetry, drama, and the essay. This is the title of the anthology. It is underlined. Okay? Written by Kafka. And I told you before, titles of novels should be underlined. But here you cannot underline it because it is published in an anthology. So here you underline the title of the anthology. But the title of the novel in this case should be written within quotation marks. And after the title of the book, you write the name of the editor, ED, and the E is capitalized, dot, Robert D. Yani. You start with the first name of the editor. And if you have an edition, you write the number of the edition after the name of the editor. Fourth, ED. ED means edition. New York, McGraw, 1998, period 215 to 245. These are the pages that the Metamorphosis covers. Okay? And we did a similar bibliography note for the APA students work in an anthology. Right? So I'm not going to do it again. Now here you have book with an editor. You have Arnold, Matthew. So this is a book by Matthew Arnold. It is entitled Culture and Anarchy. So you start with the name of the author. Arnold, family name, Matthew, period. Culture and Anarchy, it should be underlined or italicized. It is the title of the book. Period, ED, i.e. editor. J. Dover Wilson. Again, we start with the first name of the editor. Period. Cambridge. This is the place of the publication of the book. Cambridge, UP. Did I comment on UP before?
No.
UP, it means University Press. According to the MLA style sheet, we don't write University Press. Instead, we use the abbreviation UP. Okay? And if you have press, like York Press, you write York, capital P. You don't need to write press. Now the APA students should write University Press. Okay? I'm addressing the language students. Are you listening? أنا في حاجة طلاب لغة نايمين.
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Yes.
The APA students should write University Press. You don't have to use an abbreviation. Okay, now language students, you have it at the end of this chapter. Work in an anthology. It is the same. You do the same here when you have a book with an editor. Okay? So it is note number 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4 in the book. And I discussed it before. You have Thomas, comma, J. This is the name of the author. Within parentheses, you write the date of the publication, 1986. Period. Then you have the title of the text, A Time to Sow. Period. Then you write M before the name of the editor. You write M and you use the initial of the first name. You don't need to write the first name as it is. You don't have to write it in full. You write only the initial. A. Clark. This is the family name of the editor. And you write within parentheses ED. E should be capitalized. Dot, then comma. After the comma, you write the title of the book. The Early Americans, and it should be underlined or italicized. After the title, you write the numbers of the pages within parentheses, PP 159 to 178. These are the pages that the article covers. So A Time to Sow is an article. Period, New York. This is the city or the place of publication. Then Free Press. So you don't need to use an abbreviation for press. Write it as it is. Okay. Literature students, on the second page, which is page 414, you have forms to use for periodicals. Skip the first two. Well, let's do the second. Article from a scholarly journal. Crumley, comma, E. Frank. You start with the name of the author. You start also with the family name. The adolescent suicide attempt, calling a cardinal symptom of a serious psychiatric disorder. This is the title of the article. You have the title and the subtitles. It should be written within quotation marks. Period, American Journal of Psychotherapy. This is the title of the journal. And it should be underlined or italicized. 22. This number stands for the number of the issue. يعني رقم العدد in Arabic. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor.
Yes.
Okay. After the title of the journal, you mention the number of the issue. Then after the number of the issue, you mention the date of the publication of the journal. It is 1982 and it should be written within parentheses. Colon, and after the colon you have 158 to 65, i.e. 165. Okay, so these numbers stand for the number of the pages that the article covers. So this means that the article starts on page 158 and it ends on page 165. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor, very clear.
You have to memorize them because on the exam, you will have similar exercises. And a single mistake will cost you the mark allocated to each item. So we only have 4 items, i.e. 4 sources, and you have to write a bibliography note for each. Each source may be allocated 10 points. So if you make a single mistake, you will lose the 10 points. So for example, if you write, let's say, the publisher before the place of publication, I will consider it wrong. So I will not give you, let's say, half the mark. Now, MBA students, you have magazine article. It is mentioned in the margin. Magazine article. You have Jones, W. This is the name of the author. 1998, June. This is the number, the date of the publication of the magazine. Okay, so we mention the month or the date after the year. So the year comes first. Okay, here you have 1998, June. You may have 1998, the 1st of June. You may have 1998, spring or summer or fall. So you have to use these expressions. Is it clear, APA students?
Yes, doctor, it's clear.
And there should be a comma between the year and the month. Period. I'd rather travel. This is the title of the article. And the APA students don't have to write the title of the article or the short poem or the short story within quotation marks in the bibliography notes. Period, time. It is italicized. It is the title of the magazine. So the magazine and the journal are similar. Not real. They are the same. Okay? The bibliography note that we write for a magazine article is similar to the bibliography note that we write for a journal article. Time, this is the title of the journal or the magazine, 135, this is the number of the issue. 70 to 72, these the article covers. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. Next time I will do how to write a bibliography note for an article published online. Okay, now you have to try to memorize them. Okay, next time we will discuss. Okay, do you have a question? Do you have a question?
No.
Okay, next time we will discuss. Yes.
Yes, for APA, the work in anthology is similar to that with a book with an editor for APA,
Yes, yes.
as mentioned before.
I didn't hear you well.
As you mentioned before, they are similar in APA.
If you have an editor, you have to follow the format that we have in the book. When you have an anthology, you have an editor.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. On Thursday, we will discuss Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. Okay? Now, Matthew, I will send it to you tomorrow. Okay? I will send it to the group of this class. Matthew Arnold is a Victorian poet. Okay? Do you know what Victorian means? Who can tell me?
It symbolizes the age of the queen,
Which queen?
Queen Victoria.
Queen Victoria. Okay? Okay. During which century did Queen Victoria rule England?
In the 80s?
1837.
When?
In the 80s.
1837.
1337?
1837.
Yes. The second half of the 19th century, yes. She became the Queen of England in 1820, not 30, 27. Victoria or Queen Victoria became the Queen of England in 1827, i.e. during the 19th century. And we know that the first 30 years of the 19th century constitute what we call the Romantic Age. Okay? The Romantic movement in England started at the end of the 18th century, during the last 20 or 70, 30 years of the 18th century, and it ended in 1837 movement with the death of Shelley. Shelley died in 1837, Byron died in 1836, John Keats died before these two poets, and the three make up what we call the young generation of English Romantic poets. Okay? Now, Queen Victoria became the ruler of England in 1827. She died in 1803 or 1903 or 1901. I don't remember the exact date of her death. So the Victorian age extends from 1827 to
1901 she died.
Oh, okay. Now, according to some historians, the Victorian age extends to 1915. Because after Queen Victoria, Edward became the King of England, and his age was similar to the Victorian age as far as literature is concerned. I'm not talking about politics. Okay? So Edwardian literature and Victorian literature are the same. So that the Edwardian literature is a continuation of Victorian literature. Okay? Now Matthew Arnold is a Victorian poet because students used to write on the exam, Matthew Arnold is a 20th century poet. This is wrong. And students of the Shakespeare course used to write Shakespeare as a 19th century writer. This is wrong. You have to know the ages during which these writers lived. Okay? So Matthew Arnold is a Victorian poet. And he is one of the most important Victorian poets. So that's why I am introducing him in this course. This is number one. Number two, his poem Dover Beach is considered by critics the first modern English poem. Dover Beach is considered the first modern English poem. Okay? Now, when I discuss Dover Beach, I will focus on the form of the poem and the relationship between the form and the content, i.e. the meaning. So in this case, I will be analyzing the poem according to the philosophy of the Anglo-American New Critics. The Anglo-American New Critics. Okay, now the Anglo-American New Critics include T.S. Eliot, Alan Tate, I.A. Richards, and others. I'm not going to enumerate the names of these critics, but I will focus on the main principles of new criticism. Okay, now according to Anglo-American new critics, a work of literature is an entity. It is a body. Okay, it is an entity that is made of a form and a content. The form, according to these critics, should help the reader come at the meaning that the writer wants to communicate through his work. So in this case, a poem has a form and it has a meaning. And the form should help us understand the meaning. So if the form doesn't help us understand the meaning, it means that the poem is a failure. It means that the poem is not a good poem. Okay? So according to these critics, we don't read a poem or a novel or a work of literature with reference to the life of the writer. We read a work of literature in isolation from the life of the author, his society, his religion, the political, social, economic conditions of his age. So that's why they believe that a poem is an entity, i.e. it is separated from the poet. So we understand the poem by reading it, by analyzing its elements, so that we can come up with its meaning. Okay? So this is how I will be analyzing the poem on Thursday. Do you have any question before I dismiss the class?
Doctor,
Yes.
can I ask you a question regarding the ages of literal movement? I just want to make sure that I got a proper information.
Okay, Ines, you will have to postpone your question till next session because now it is 1:30 and some of your friends have a class at 1:45 with Dr. Sonia. So if I don't dismiss the class now, they will not attend her class. And they will say that I detained them for a long period of time. So remind me on Thursday to answer this question. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
Okay, don't worry. I will answer your question next time. Okay? Thank you for attending.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.